What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson, and happy game day eve. The New York Giants are traveling to Seattle to play the Seahawks tomorrow afternoon. Should be an interesting one. No Malik Neighbors. That's the big storyline for the New York Giants. How are they going to find a way to win this game without their superstar on the offensive side of the ball? And on top of that, to make matters worse, as I mentioned in one of my recent episodes, injury report, Devin Singletary also on it, doubtful for this upcoming game. So I'm absolutely nervous about the way that this Giants offense can operate without those two players in the lineup. Singletary might play, but he's absolutely going to be limited if he does. That and so much more as we head into the Seattle game. Another storyline that I do just want to preview before I hand it off to you, Alex. Familiar faces. This Seahawks defense is really good, and two of their best players, former Giants. Leonard Williams has been playing great football, and so has Julian Love. It really sucks to see those guys go elsewhere and play such damn good football for the Seahawks, but it should be interesting to see how the Giants attempt to match up with those two players on Sunday's game. So, Alex, how are you feeling going into this game? Are you nervous? I'm imagining you probably are. No Malik Neighbors on the road, but how do you feel going into this one?
How do I feel going into this one? I'd be crazy if I felt good about it. No Singletary, most likely. I know he was feeling better. He was limited yesterday, but still doubtful to play in this game. And then Neighbors, who is our offense, right? Like this is the same exact story, Anthony. We've seen the past with Saquon Barkley. Like Saquon's out of the game, and we have no way of producing any yards, no way of moving the football. This is the opportunity for Daniel Jones to actually put together a really good game, right? And no more leaning on Malik Neighbors to make circus catches and catch a crosser 5 yards from the line of scrimmage and taking it for 25. You know what I mean? This is no more of the yards after catch that he was providing and boosting his numbers with. This has to be Daniel Jones making good reads, good throws, good decisions, and good football. And I think that's a pretty honest and fair take by most accounts. You lose your top receiver. The running game's been kind of stagnant lately. Who has to step up in these big moments? Great quarterbacks do. Really quality quarterbacks step up and produce in these moments. If Daniel Jones struggles, with good pass protection, we'll know what kind of quarterback he is this season. And basically, the quarterback will either be one that rides on Malik Neighbors' coattails to get all these yards, or he steps up when the going is tough, when adversity strikes, and rises to the occasion and finds ways to win a football game. So we're going to see what happens here. Now, I know, the Seattle defense is very solid. They really got beat up this past weekend against the Detroit Lions. But before I go any further, I want to talk about our sponsor, BetUS. Looking at some really good odds in this one for the Washington Commanders, minus 160 to beat the Browns. The Browns are bad. Even the Giants beat the Browns. And the Commanders are on fire. Jaden Daniels, that's my guy. It hurts to watch him over in Washington. It really does. I know we couldn't get him, but I wished we could have. And we know Brian Dable loved him too. Really sucks, but he's been phenomenal. I think he's going to absolutely cook the Browns. So I'm taking minus 160. I'd even consider parlaying it with the Jets one. The Jets and Minnesota Vikings over at 40.5. I feel like that's really low even for those two teams. I know their defenses are solid, but the Vikings put up points, and eventually the Jets are going to have to score some points. So I like those odds. I like those bets. I'll put a 50 spot at minus 160 for the Commanders because they're just rolling. They're cooking right now, and I think they win this game pretty handily. But as always, use the code YouTube150 to get 150% on your first deposit up to $2,000, 125% on your next two deposits up to $2,000. Pretty phenomenal deal going on here. But back to the Giants, guys. Without Malik Neighbors, who has to step up? Well, in my opinion, two players are in mind. Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton's now your WR1 by all intents and purposes. Wan'Dale, you could label him WR1, but he's your slot guy. He's really your security blanket. He's not the big explosive play guy. He's going to have 12 catches for 40 yards type of player. Maybe he gets a touchdown in this one. But Wan'Dale, I really do believe, is the guy that has to step up in this one. Get those yards. Get those first downs. Move the chains. And at the end of the day, Anthony, the deciding factor between this game, it could be the deep ball. It could be Jalen Hyatt. It could be Darius Slayton. Daniel Jones, bud, now or never. You have to freaking hit a deep pass. The Giants are going to try to scheme open in a couple of opportunities. I'm sure they'll take some. And if they do get an opportunity to hit big, Daniel Jones has to be on the money. No more overthrows, no more underthrows. He said he's physically feeling fine. It's nothing to do with his knee. He's just trying to find the balance. Historically, he's been good in these categories, but he's got to hit the deep shots, because if he doesn't, this offense is going to be stagnant. They're not going to be able to move the football, and they cannot sustain 12 play 75-yard drives. It's not going to happen this week without Neighbors. It's not going to happen. They have to hit on big chunk explosive plays. So Anthony, that's my personal opinion. I don't know if you follow in lockstep with that, but I'll let you get your take on how you think this Giants offense can move the football.
No, I mean, I think that you're right. Darius Slayton is going to be the WR1 in this game. You know, whether you want to label Wan'Dale Robinson WR1 based on target share, you can do that, but he's playing from the slot, and the overwhelming majority of his receptions have come from 0 to 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. So he's not really a field stretcher. He's not a player that you're expecting to make plays at all three levels. Now, Darius Slayton hasn't been great this year, but you do expect him to make plays at all three levels, underneath, middle, and deep. He can do those things, and he does have chemistry with Daniel Jones, and he is the Giants' longest tenured wide receiver. So, yeah, absolutely, Slayton is WR1 in this game, but I'm actually keeping a closer eye on potential WR2 on the outside, Jalen Hyatt. We've been talking about this for weeks now, Alex. We want to see Jalen Hyatt get more playing time, want to see him get some opportunities to make plays on the field, but he's just been trapped on the sideline. The Giants haven't given him any playing time. They've kept Darius Slayton in the lineup. He's only gotten in random spurts here or there. He barely has any targets. Barely any playing time. This is the week now. Jalen Hyatt is going to have to be in the starting lineup. How does he respond? How does he perform with a full workload? Is he able to go out there and make a few receptions? Does he haul in a deep catch from Daniel Jones? Does he actually finally get this deep passing game going with his great speed that he demonstrated last year in his rookie season? So I'm keeping a very close eye on Jalen Hyatt. Super excited to watch him play, get some more playing time, and hopefully make an impact on this game. And then, hey, if he plays so great, maybe he continues to play a high amount. Maybe Slayton gets on the trade block, and the Giants feel comfortable rolling with Jalen Hyatt in their starting lineup through the second half of the season. That's totally possible. I think it's very important for them to try and get him on the field more, to get him going, get him developing, so he can eventually turn into a quality starter for this Giants offense. It's very important that Jalen Hyatt has a big game against the Seattle Seahawks. But not just Jalen Hyatt. There's another player who usually doesn't feature in the starting lineup that should be playing quite a bit. Rookie running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. out of Purdue, the 5th round draft pick. You guys know we're a huge fan of him. I know a lot of you are really big fans of Tyrone Tracy. He really won Giants fans over in the preseason and training camp. Made a lot of plays, especially out of the backfield as a receiver. And then in the preseason, he had 5 carries and 5 forced missed tackles. The guy's a walking tackle-breaking machine. He should play a lot on Sunday, right? You've got Devin Singletary, doubtful for this game. Even if he suits up with this groin injury, he's going to be limited. He's not going to be able to take on his normal workload from that running back position. So what are the Giants going to do? Well, they're going to have to share that workload. They're going to have to use this running back by committee that they tried to set up all offseason long and finally give the ball to some of these other running backs like Tyrone Tracy. Tyrone Tracy has gotten way more playing time than Eric Gray. So if we're talking about who would start in place of Singletary, RB2 right now is Tyrone Tracy. You know, it looked like it could have been Eric Gray after a great preseason performance against the Lions, but ultimately, Tyrone Tracy has been RB2, and I expect him to be RB1 on Sunday because of Devin Singletary's injury, and that's what I'm really excited for from this Giants offense. The way that they win this game, they're going to have to control the ground. The Giants' rushing attack has been far too inconsistent through the first 4 weeks of the season, but hopefully, Tyrone Tracy, the rookie, steps into the lineup, provides a spark, picks up some yards on the ground, and that might open things up for some more open passing lanes to Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson. So, Alex, I know you're a huge Tyrone Tracy Jr. fan. How excited are you to watch him get an increased workload on Sunday?
Well, listen, Tyrone Tracy's been obviously buried behind Singletary because of his contract, because of the role that they wanted him to play. But Tracy's been out there on third downs. He's made a couple of really nice catches. This is a player I think really, really needs more experience at the NFL level, right? He's physically imposing. Like his yards after contact are phenomenal. He can do all the stuff you want to see. The contact balance is elite. We've seen flashes of it at times. This is a player who needs to see more playing time because it will. I think that because he's a little bit older for a rookie, because he's physically there, his growth will be expedited in a lot of ways. That's kind of how I visualize the development of Tyrone Tracy over the next couple weeks. You know, he's probably only going to start this week, and then next week Singletary will be back in the lineup. But I think that if Singletary keeps having these problems with the fumbles, you know, similar to what the Patriots are doing with Ramondre Stevenson, Antonio Gibson starting this week, they should get Tracy more involved. Like, Tracy is the future objectively. I know they signed Singletary to a 3-year deal. It's really a 2-year deal, but I think having a more, not an even workload, but I could see like Singletary getting 65% and then Tracy getting 35%. Like that could be something that is sustainable for the Giants. That way you offer somebody else a chance to get involved. If they get hot and they get more productive, maybe you lean on that guy even further. Kind of similar to what they did with Singletary and Dameon Pierce last year. Like maybe Singletary's on the opposite end of that equation this time. I think that Tracy was drafted for a reason. He's a really good third down receiving back, but he's a really underrated runner, and I want to see more from him. So this is a week that he can prove to the doubters, he can prove to himself, prove to us that he's capable of being a kind of lead back here. He's got the size, got the physicality, got the speed, got the contact balance. Just has to see more playing time. Like it just needs to see more of these gaps opening up, these opportunities arising, capitalizing on it, seeing the vision, the pace of an NFL game, the physicality is a lot different. You cannot get better without that experience. So he's had a couple of opportunities here and there, but in the end, I do think that this will be a player that could develop into a starter down the road. I mean, look how much value other teams get from their running backs. That like look at Jordan Mason. Sometimes it's really just about blocking. I know so far Tracy's only averaging 2.4 yards per carry, but it's on freaking 12 attempts. So it's really not much there. I think this is going to be a good chance for him to prove his worth and protect the football first and foremost, get some nice gains, operate out of the backfield as a receiver, but most of all, just help this Giants offense move the football downfield because it's going to be tough to get yards without Neighbors. The running game's going to have to be the focal point in this one in a lot of ways. Tracy having a big game, a big breakout performance would really help this Giants team at least stay competitive in this one.
No doubt. And listen, I just want to see the Tyrone Tracy Jr. breakout game happen because I really like him. Like, I love the way that he conducts himself. I love the enthusiasm that he brings to the field, and I love his playing style. So I really just want to see him have a big game so that he can earn more playing time throughout the rest of the season. But yeah, we've talked a lot about this offense. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks and moving parts. The last component of this offense, though, Alex, is the offensive line, which has been a lot better than expected this season. I mean, the offensive line has played some damn good football. Their pass protection rankings are all in the top 10. All of these players that we had question marks about have performed well. Jermaine Illuminor has really solidified that right tackle spot. John Michael Schmitz looks like he's turning a corner, has really taken a step forward this season, and those guard spots vastly improved. Even with Greg Van Roten struggling at times, he's given us a lot better football than we've gotten from the position in years past, even with his struggles. So the offensive line has been impressive, but they do have a pretty good Seattle Seahawks defensive front to go up against this week again, headlined by familiar face in Leonard Williams. Alex, how are you feeling about this offensive line matching up with the Seattle Seahawks defense? And in particular, I do want to hear your opinion on John Michael Schmitz and the way that he's performed so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, John Michael Schmitz has been much better than last year. He's developing, taking steps forward, seeing more consistency around him. But this Seattle defensive front, I don't really necessarily know if all of them are playing. I know Boya Mafa was not available last week. Leonard Williams did not play last week. I bet they're all questionable this week, so I don't know if we have a necessarily a guarantee that they're all playing. I mean, just looking at it briefly, Julian Love is questionable. Boya is questionable. And I think Leonard Williams is active. I think he practiced this week, so they're getting a couple of key components back. This is going to be a nice test for the Giants' defensive front, just as last week was, and they put a pretty good show against Dallas. They did pretty solid in pass protection. Micah Parsons had 1 pressure on 14 pass rush snaps against Andrew Thomas. DeMarcus Lawrence, usually kills us. He was not really that impactful. Jermaine Illuminor had a solid game. So, for the most part, pretty impressed with this offensive line so far in pass pro. I think Leonard Williams is a force in nature. It's going to be fun to watch him go up against this interior offensive line. John Runyan, no joke. He can hold his own. JMS, he's an extremely intelligent center. I think that he's going to be fine. Our edge guys, we've gone up against Myles Garrett, Michael Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm not necessarily scared of Seattle's pass rushers compared to those guys. So I think this offensive line will give Daniel Jones time to operate. I think this offensive line will give them chances to run the football. Just about capitalizing. Like I said earlier in the episode, this is the chance for Daniel Jones to say, I don't only need Malik Neighbors in yards after catch to produce yards. I can do it on my own with Darius Slayton, with Jalen Hyatt, with Wandale. Maybe even Theo Johnson gets more involved in this one. So we'll see kind of how they operate here. But this is Daniel Jones' chance to say, I'm not just a Malik Neighbors merchant. I can actually move the football downfield. I can actually capitalize. That's what he's been. right? That's what he's been objectively. He's been a Malik Neighbors merchant. And I think that's an okay thing. Leaning on your WR1 is not a bad strategy. In fact, great teams do that. So, I mean, look at Dak Prescott. You could say he's a CeeDee Lamb merchant at times, and I think that's exactly what good teams do. They capitalize on great talent. Even look at Tua and Tyreek Hill at times. Like he just basically runs around and Tyreek Hill's, running for 100 yards downfield, wide open. So, I do think that that's what good quarterbacks do. They find ways to get the ball to their best playmakers. But, if Daniel Jones wants to be a $40 million+ quarterback, he's got to be able to throw the ball to other guys too. And I think this will be a really important game for him to show that.
Yeah, and let's highlight that again, because obviously we just kind of previewed the Seahawks defensive line going up against the Giants offensive line. Let's move into that Seahawks secondary and talk about Daniel Jones trying to lead a competent passing attack without his WR1. He faced the Seahawks defense last year, and it did not go well. We're talking week 3 blowout, Giants versus Seahawks at home, MetLife Stadium, prime time. Couple picks from Daniel Jones, one of them being an atrocious 100-yard pick six by way of Seattle Seahawks cornerback. I believe it was Tariq Woolen. And that secondary is young for the Seahawks, but man, is it good. They've got Devon Witherspoon, who they drafted in the first round, the top 5 pick last year. And then, like I said, Tariq Woolen has been very good for them since he was drafted in the 5th round in 2022. They've got some dogs in that secondary. And those guys in that secondary, Alex, they've never had nice things to say about Daniel Jones. If you remember last year, the one damning quote that really started to turn Giants fans away from Daniel Jones came from Seahawks. Was it Devon Witherspoon, I believe it was, last year? He said, hey, we watched the film. We knew he stared down his first receiver, and we were ready to jump on those routes because of that. That's how we took home that pick six, 100 yards. And ever since then, man, Giants fans' confidence in Daniel Jones has been shaken. Like, I feel like that's the game that you can really pinpoint that kind of did it for a lot of Giants fans. The fact that a rookie cornerback, yeah, albeit a top 5 pick, a great talent, but a rookie cornerback calling out a 5th-year starter and saying, hey, he was easy to read. We knew we were getting picks on him. Man, that was damning evidence against Daniel Jones. Now he's got an opportunity to respond, though. Now he's on the road against Seattle. It's the same defense, same players. How does he respond? All this time later, a full year and some change. Can he go up against the Seattle Seahawks secondary, not throw any picks this time around, not stare down that first read and allow a pick six to go the other way? Maybe he can carve them up and kind of make a statement here. I don't know if that's really possible, but we can hope for it, right? We can hope that Daniel Jones has some sort of response to the Seahawks defense that literally clowned him in the media last year. So I do think there is a storyline here, that's a little chip on your shoulder if you're Daniel Jones. If I were Daniel Jones, at least, I'd have a chip on my shoulder saying, hey, these are the guys that were making fun of me in the media. I need to go string together a great game. I got to go throw some of these deep bombs accurately to Jalen Hyatt and Darius Slayton and start hitting on some of these touchdowns. And most importantly, convert in the red zone. Because if you guys remember that game against the Seahawks, the Giants had some red zone opportunities. They had chances to score. Instead, they had a pick six go the other way on the goal line. And I think there was another red zone turnover as well in that game. Giants got to be good in the red zone. So far this year, they haven't necessarily been bad, but going up against the Seattle Seahawks defense with, again, a very young but loaded talent secondary, I need to see Daniel Jones actually respond against his team, play with that chip on his shoulder, and convert in the red zone for some touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to Daniel Jones and his, what he says in the media, he's like, I'm super confident, I do all these things, and, I need to see that you are super confident. You know what I mean? I need to see that you are as good in your head as you think you are on the football field. So, this is a game where your WR1 is out, your back's against the wall, no one expects you to win. Singletary could be out. The defense has been struggling. Seahawks are cooking. I know they lost against the Lions, but they've been really good this year. I think this is a game where you either step up, prove your worth, or you flounder and you prove to everybody what everyone thinks you are anyway. This is the chance to change the narrative. Another game like this to change the narrative. At least just, maybe not change the narrative, but more so just punch the freaking direction a little bit towards good and not towards bad. Keep building momentum here. I think that when it comes to Daniel Jones, most people are yeah, this is probably his last season. He has to have a dominant rest of the year to really change most people's minds, I would argue. But these are the types of games where you're down your WR1 and you need to step up. You need to make it happen. You need to leave it on the football field. These are the types of games you got to show up and play your best football. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just what everyone thinks you already are. So, I guess the main thing I want to say here is like just challenging Daniel Jones to step up and compensate. Play a really efficient ball game. Get the ball to your other playmakers. Make good decisions. Don't turn the ball over. Play good football. That's it. That's all we ever ask for, Anthony. Just play good, sound, disciplined football, and good things happen. You put yourself in a chance to win. Look, even if you lose, but it was really competitive and you fought without your WR1, I can respect that. But getting absolutely cooked and making bad choices and not making good throws, I can't stand behind that. You know what I mean? And that's what we're kind of, our backs are up against the wall in the same way, watching this football team sometimes. But, I think a lot of people probably feel as though the Giants will not win this game. They need to play a very, very specific brand of football in this. Maintain possession. Do not let Seattle get the football, because DK Metcalf, I hate to say it, is probably going to cook Deontay Banks. I love Deontay Banks. I think he's going to be a fine player. He's struggling right now, but DK Metcalf he's a monster, man. He's cooking everybody right now. So, I am a little bit concerned about that matchup.
Yeah, I want to talk about Deontay Banks. In particular, there's a specific play. I will say this is going to be a tough matchup for Banks and everybody in this Giants secondary. I mean, we are talking about a Seahawks offense that not only has DK Metcalf, who you just highlighted, but also Tyler Lockett and JSN. We were really big fans of Jackson Smith and Jigba coming out of the draft a couple seasons ago. He hasn't necessarily developed into that WR1 for Seattle, but he's playing in a loaded Seattle Seahawks offense, and he kind of is talented enough to probably be the WR1 on some teams in this league. He's a really good player, slot receiver who gets a lot of targets and a lot of receptions. And also you have Tyler Lockett and you have DK Metcalf. This is a talented Seahawks offense with a high-flying passing attack led by Geno Smith. But let's talk about Deontay Banks matching up against DK Metcalf in this one. Now, honestly, I know that DK Metcalf is a kind of a physical mismatch for pretty much every cornerback in the NFL, but to be honest, if you're talking physicality and athleticism, the 10.0 relative athletic score for Deontay Banks stands out, and his ability to kind of match up with DK Metcalf, at least in that regard, I do like. So if we're going to see him make this statement and bounce back from all of these struggles, man, I would love to see it happen this weekend against Metcalf. Like, the Banks' problem hasn't been his athleticism or physicality. He's been physical. He's been right there on a lot of these plays, and he's shown athleticism on a lot of these reps. He just keeps getting beat at the catch point. Who's great at the catch point? Well, DK Metcalf. He can catch the ball over anybody on any throw. Everything is catchable to that guy. So if Banks can break up a few of those passes and make some plays at the catch point, well, I'll be pretty impressed and I'll feel a lot more confident going forward. But if it's another week of him getting beaten up at the catch point by DK Metcalf, well, it's going to be really disappointing, because honestly, what we're seeing from Banks so far this season, a lot of great coverage, a lot of really bad plays at the catch point. Who does that remind you of? Reminds me of Eli Apple. Hate to say it. And you guys know how big of a fan of Deontay Banks I am. And I will clarify, just like you, Alex, I'm still confident in him. I still think he's going to turn around. He's going to develop into a solid cornerback. He's just not playing great football right now. And it's just because of a few things in his game that he needs to improve and sharpen. And it's tough to do when you are the CB1 as a rookie. And then in your second year, you didn't get any help on the opposite side of the boundary at cornerback, and you really are the focal point of that secondary. It's been a very tough position for Banks to be in. But I got to ask you specifically, Alex, about this one play from Deontay Banks against the Dallas Cowboys last week on Thursday night. CeeDee Lamb has a 55-yard touchdown reception, okay? It was a tough play for Banks. He jammed CD at the line of scrimmage. CD almost goes out of bounds. Like, it wasn't a bad jam. It was a decent rep to start with for Banks. But then Lamb goes up the sideline, breaks wide open, catches the pass. Banks is trying to chase him down, just stops, just gives up on the play basically. Started jogging at the 24-yard line while he was about a yard within CeeDee Lamb. Doesn't make an attempt to dive for his ankles, doesn't try and put his 4.3 40-yard dash speed to work and get on Lamb and tackle him inside the 5-yard line. He literally lets him score. And for that, Jerome Henderson was pissed off, Giants defensive backs coach. Giants fans were pissed off. I was pissed off. I thought the lack of effort there was laughable and inexcusable. Now, Banks did say that it's something he acknowledges, something he's going to fix. But at the end of the day, that's the kind of shit that we just can't tolerate, right? That's when we see a Giants player give up on a play in week 4. I mean, how are we supposed to feel good about this team going throughout the season, right? So whether you want to make that a Banks-specific thing, a team-specific thing, I don't know. But Alex, I do want to hear your take on it. Just laughable lack of effort on that specific play from Deontay Banks, a player who has not played well enough to take plays off, that's for sure.
Listen, when players make plays like that and they stop running and stop hustling, to me it shows a mental problem. It shows that he might be lacking confidence. Like he knows he got cooked, he just stopped. Um, like that doesn't really make me feel good about about going up against DK Metcalf, as you said, is an elite contested catch receiver that has tremendous straight line speed and is one of the best receivers in the game. And Deontay Banks traditionally has gotten cooked by some of the best receivers in the game this season, whether it's CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper. At this point, I kind of feel as though Banks needs a big bounce back performance. I don't think it's going to come this week. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a difficult one. DK Metcalf is not the type of player you want to bounce back, and then Jamar Chase the next week, and then A.J. Brown the one after that, and then George Pickens against the Steelers. Maybe he has a better game against George Pickens with Justin Fields or whoever's playing quarterback for them, or Terry McLaurin against the Commanders, or Deontay Johnson against the Panthers, assuming he's still there. Like, he's got a gauntlet of really good freaking receivers to go up against over the next 5 or 6 weeks. So it's going to be tough, but this is what makes CB1s, right? He's got to step up, got to shake that off, got to acknowledge it, which he did, and I appreciate it, and we respect that. But you can't let it happen again. Needs to be maxing out effort at all times, and it's just a ball skills problem. He's there in coverage a lot of times, as you referenced. He's just not able to finish the play, not able to get his head around, not able to identify when the ball is coming in there. So I do think right now that when it comes to Banks, it's just piecing together the last parts of his development. It's not like he's terrible. It's not like he's horrible. It's not like he's lost in coverage. He's there. He's just not finishing the play. And that's what makes good CBs great. The ability to finish that play, the ability to turn around and get an interception, the ability to get your hands in there at the key moments. He's just missing that lack of discipline at those critical apex moments. And that's what's making him look bad. But if he can clean that up, it's going to be really, really good cornerback for a very long time. And I think that he's still so new. Guys, we're talking about a guy who's 4 weeks into his second season. There's a lot of football left for Deontay Banks, guys. A lot of development left for Deontay Banks. So if anyone's scared or horrified about this right now, like, we expected some bumps and bruises. I mean, the secondary was weak. We identified it in the beginning of the offseason. We said, if Deontay Banks struggles, the secondary is going to be bad, and they're struggling, and it's bad. So, this is not something that we were necessarily surprised by. We're more so like, yeah, like, this is kind of what we expected. So it is what it is. This team is still very, very young, very, very fresh, and still very much in a developmental phase. And this is just what it is right now with Deontay Banks. Not surprised by it, but we are hopefully looking for compounding good days and having some better performances. And I think that's kind of the best way I can piece that together.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I like that optimistic outlook and kind of confident approach, because that's really what Deontay Banks needs himself, right? Like, he needs to stay confident in himself and have an optimistic outlook going forward. That's how he's going to turn things around and start to improve his play, which, again, he hasn't been terrible. Like, he's been there. He's just not winning at the catch point. He hasn't been good enough, that's for sure. He's been bad. I know, guys. He's struggling. He's really playing poorly. But you could see the potential still. Like, it's not like he's just constantly letting receivers get wide open and losing every rep by a mile. Some of them he is, and it's concerning, but he's there on some of these other reps. So I don't know, man. Deontay Banks, listen, I'm still going to be patient with him. We're talking about a kid that's played 19 career games in the NFL. He hasn't even hit the 20 start benchmark. All right, so I'm going to be patient with him. I'm going to keep hoping to see him grow. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the Giants' scheme and talent around him is not very good. Sometimes that's been the case. Like last year with Wink Martindale, he didn't do any favors for Deontay Banks. And so far this year, it's been a story of your best cornerback is only as good as your second best cornerback. I think we see that oftentimes around the NFL. It's very tough to be a good cover man when you don't have any other cover men alongside you. So we'll see how it goes for him. But again, tough matchup here. Giants versus Seahawks. Seahawks have a lot of weapons. Can the Giants find a way to slow them down on the road and secure their second win of the season? As improbable as it may seem, there are definitely some ways to do it. But Alex, before we wrap this thing up, we want to do predictions, or do we just want to leave it open to interpretation? How are you feeling?
I mean, listen, I can't sit here and lie and act like I'm going to predict the Giants to win this game. I think that the Seahawks are just too good. I'm hoping to keep it close and maybe win by a field goal. Like, that would probably be realistic. I think the Giants probably lose this game, so I'm not going to give you my prediction. But listen, again, my perception of this team going into this season, guys, was development, was giving key young players time to grow. finally scheming Wan'Dale the ball and showing that he can be a solid player. Get Jalen Hyatt some deep passes. Get him involved in this offense, right? See if Tyrone Tracy can have a big game. Get Tyler Nubin more reps. It's really about developing these young core pieces to be competent in 2025 and beyond. Like that was how I perceived this season. I wasn't hoping for a Super Bowl. I mean, you always want that, but it's not realistic. So what I want to see is some young players make some big plays in this game, win or lose. Like, of course I want to win, but most of all, it's about developing this young talent so we can be great in the future as well. And I think the Giants, like, that's really what I'm watching in this game. Young players making plays. Andrew Phillips is expected to be back. Really excited about him. So that's kind of where even if we lose this game, hope we don't, I'm going to be really excited to see some young talent step up and make some plays.
For sure. I mean, Drew Phillips versus JSN, that's a fun matchup to watch. I'll be keeping a close eye on that. And for what it's worth, it's been a bad year for the Giants so far. They're 1-3, not where they wanted to be. But the saving grace every single week, the silver lining, has been the rookies. Whether you're talking about Malik Neighbors having superstar performances back-to-back weeks, or you're talking about Tyler Nubin, hasn't missed a single snap so far this season. He's pulling himself as Xavier McKinney. He's been on the field for 100% of defensive snaps, all 250 of them. That's impressive stuff for a rookie to be on the field that much. Yeah, he's had his hits and misses, but still, he hasn't missed a tackle yet this season either. I think that's an interesting statistic to highlight for Tyler Nubin. And then also, on top of that, if you want to look across this lineup, we've got other rookies out there who are playing well. Elijah Chapman has had some great moments. It's just overall been quality football from the rookies, and that's something that I'm taking away and saying even if this season ends with 3 total wins, at least the Giants did hit on some of their draft picks, and they have some young building blocks for the future. That's important. But alas, we're not looking ahead towards the future. We're looking to right now. It's going to be a tough one tomorrow afternoon, guys. I won't lie to you. I wouldn't pick the Giants to win this one either, but I'm not going to say that it's impossible because nothing is impossible in this NFL any given Sunday. Maybe the New York Giants go out there and sneak away a win, and I hope so. But of course, we're going to have a post-game recap for you tomorrow afternoon, so stay tuned to that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and stay tuned to all of our reactions throughout the week coming out of this Giants versus Seahawks game. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.